orphans of the beating heart, fatigue devouring the need for sleep and that which compels us to refuse to live on our knees. We decided to call a halt on this obsessive search that has brought us so far from home, and to camp instead on a piece of endless land which stretched out far into the distance. The cold consumed all our stars, whilst I asked myself if we would succeed in finding them tomorrow. Lustrous grey spheres had shaded into the colour pink, and we were waiting for the chance to fill these bruised hands that have begun to ache from all this emptiness. But just as the night began to fall upon us, it appeared again, looking majestic, with irises that vied with the moon for pallor. Here you are again. Strange how it's been following us all afternoon. It'll be after something to eat. At our ridiculous offer of some breadcrumbs, the beautiful aviator swooped down next to us, and ignoring the food, it adopted the posture of somebody who waits for eternity. You'll see what happens. Best we get some sleep. By tomorrow it'll have grown tired and leave. The zenith breaking into all the shades of red possible was not enough to send the falcon away, nor even to cause its patience to blink. What do you think's the matter with this creature? I think it feels alone. There must be more little animals around here to distract it. Maybe it's human life that fascinates it. I can't see what interest it could find in something which is so full of errors. Imperfection is what brings us alive and makes us less mechanical. The days passed by for all three of them, although in that part of the world, someone had decided that the clocks went up to 27, which meant a constant failure that inevitably took over every part of our bodies. The longer you spend away from your point of departure, the easier it is to forget why you started on the road. And then, the very time you lack everything you need to survive, the essential is all that's left. Confronted with our stupor, the falcon rested on a massive carved rock, making a sound that strangely resembled a baby's cry. One of those oddities that seem impossible. I went over to the rock, which was littered with inscriptions, followed by drawings that formed a story. At that very instant, we understood that the concealed accident of the journey was actually predestined. There it all began. Isn't love just about the best excuse for any beginning? Kareem and Aisha met at a time when nobody was afraid to doubt everything, at the risk of having your curiosity labelled as ignorance. Kareem always believed Aisha to be the epicenter of it all, with those eyes so deep, whatever more. And Aisha had no doubt that his 3 smiles were the cure for melancholy. They used to sit and watch the colours of the seasons pass by, while Kareem told his fantastic tales about princesses who sighed deeply and brave men who fought for everything. The passing of the seasons forged an abyss between them and reality. They took refuge in every possible chance to look at one another and speak the sign language that is only understood through winks and whispers. One night, Kareem plucked up the courage to tell Aisha that he found it impossible to breathe when she was close. She looked at him sweetly, and all the words that she had prepared piled up in her mouth and betrayed her. Mumbling, he approached and took her in an embrace, so that she lost herself in its meaning, because words fall dumb when souls are shaking. A falcon from high was considering the scene, fascinated by the young lovers. It understood that it had found all that it had dreamed of, traces of any future, that is, an unconditional love. Yet the night cold had begun to invade the bodies of the sleeping lovers, who, dissolved in their first embrace, were still giggling with happiness. They did not feel death, but they had up until then felt so much life. And the poor creature, observing them from the heavens, tried to warn them, inevitably too late. Their two faces crystallized to form one, and for want of consolation, the falcon cried, its tears falling as pearls that hung like stars in the sky. We were left perplexed. It seemed like a vision of such beauty should actually happen. Our doubts faded as we turned and set eyes on a giant glass sculpture of a man and a woman embracing. At times, a moment is all it takes for you to start afresh. Our search had ended, the pearls were there, yet now in some place of an object, all we saw were tears. The merchant brothers decided to sit in that place that had ceased to seem like a corner of the world and appeared more like a universe. Life and wisdom served to begin what they suggested, while the falcon always recalled that whatever you cannot sell shall last forever. Over time, there took shape an immense city called Dubai, with buildings that touch the heavens. They decided to construct 2 towers beside the lovers, crammed with teardrop pearls for the protection of the source of all dreams and the perfectly impossible world. Dubai, 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 Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. The new flame of the earth. The project, The Flame of the Earth, is the first practical project of the new architecture. It is based on a new architectural concept, where the physical form, i.e. the image, is secondary, and what truly matters are the thinking patterns, the subtle energy body, which gives life to the physical body. The latest paradigms of science and of the new architecture show us that a building is a living matter, and we are all linked to these buildings through an extraordinary number of invisible energy threads, which converge together in many ways within our being. We can hear the building's breathing, distinguish its smell, notice that it emits vibrations, emotions, ideas, and concepts, all of which interrelate with our health and our physical and mental well-being. objective of the project: to design an emblematic structure, a skyscraper which represents Dubai and the Arabic culture in the world, which will be like the trunk of the Earth's genealogical tree, which means that it is commercial, financial, cultural, and considers the cutting-edge design to relate to the socio-cultural reality of Dubai and its urban context, so that it will carry out a relevant role within the history and culture of the entire United Arab Emirates. If we were to design a traditional building of the current architecture, we would take the information of the physical surrounding and of the architectural style, its usefulness, shape, geometry. But the new architecture which I propose and which I have applied in this project is completely different. The geometry does not matter, nor does the physical shape of the architectural habitat. As a working instrument for the creation of the building, it uses the subtle energies of the exterior macro environment which surrounds it, and the subtle energies of the interior micro-environment of the habitat that we are trying to create, which means the psychic, spiritual part, the thoughts, feelings, emotions. All these subtle energies interact simultaneously and form the subtle energy body of the architectural habitat that will be created, which will give life and shape to the physical body of the building. We already know what we are looking for: the subtle energies. Due to its source and origin, we can classify them in two types: from their ancestors in the old part of Dubai, its spirit, its culture, its religion, its values, the falcon, the pearls and the fish, and from their contemporaries in the modern part of Dubai. The subtle energies cannot escape from globalization, repeating the same models in any place in the world, which means without any indigenous reference and without its experiences, and therefore they become cosmopolitan subtle energies. These two types of subtle energies interrelate and interact with one another simultaneously, with the new energies selected by the architect in order to achieve the fixed objective for the Dubai government. In this specific case, the new energies are water, wind and fire, the three basic elements of nature which form an organic unit, where fire marks the limit between the rational and irrational intelligence. From here, fire is the principle of life, and as a vibratory energy, it generates strength. It is the power of the spirit, purifier of the matter, and transmitter par excellence. Wind, with its invisible omnipresence, surrounds us all, but we cannot catch it. It is everywhere. It can go to any place. It is the most spiritual element of nature. We cannot see it. We can hear its voice, yet we do not know where it comes from. Neither do we know where it is going. It is the strength of man and the need for love. Water, due to the experiments of Masaru Emoto and others, we already know that it has memory. It understands us and it recognises the content of thoughts, words, music and images. This all means that with our thinking patterns, we can create our real world. These ideas, concepts, emotions, and subtle energies of the location and of the people from our past, present, and future enter into resonance and are transformed into architectural shapes. Where do the thinking patterns emerge from that will give life and physical shape to the architectural entity habitat, the flame of the earth? From these subtle energies, the highest level of conscience emerges. The conscience and culture of the entire United Arab Emirates. Culture, religion, esotericism, music, customs, legends, experiences from the mountain surroundings, the sea, waterfalls, rivers, beaches, the horizon, the sun, and they are singularized and interpreted freely by my being, and they interrelate with the other subtle energies of the other entities in the rest of the universe. This first reflection reminds me that I do not only design material or finite things, the physical body, that are usually drawn on a piece of paper, but that I design infinite things, the subtle energy body of the habitat, which gives life and shape to the material part. It now fits to make a reflection about the concepts of how the universe constructs things and why. After the creation of the thinking patterns which determine the latent reality to us, in order to materialize this latent reality and to convert it into dense energies, matter, physical form, final biological part, we have to construct like the universe, applying the electrical principles of life to the design of the architectural habitats. Such configurations receive the number of fractals. A common example of these are snowflakes. In some types of these geometric configurations based on the PHI number, present in nature in a generalized way and known by humans for many years, they are presented spontaneously in a repeatable and coherent way as centers of energy concentration named implosion points, whose ability to suction and arrange the energy is directly related to the similitude which the geometric body that contains them maintains with the shape of the universe. This similitude relationship is called self-recurrence or fractality. The universe constructs things following the golden proportion: rectangles, triangles, golden spirals. The 5 platonic solids are fractality, creating the dodecahedron reticles of planet Earth, which allows us to read the microcosmos towards the macrocosmos and vice versa, with the special feature that the golden proportion appears an infinite amount of times by adding infinite pentagons. In order to understand better where the physical body of the podium emerges from, even knowing the difficulties that exist in order to understand the infinite things, we are going to remind ourselves of Dr. Gebert's discovery, where he shows the existence of subtle energy bodies in human beings, energy duplicates or molds, which are located in other space-time dimensions, and which are formed by waves and vibrations that are faster than the speed of light, which prevent us from seeing them with our 5 senses, and they are interconnected, interpenetrated, and overlapping concentrically with the corresponding physical body. We also remember that the transmission flow of vital energy goes from the invisible subtle energy body, where the emotions of feeling and thinking can be found, to the pineal gland. Exchange of the reception of subtle energies and waves whose vibratory energy converts into electrical impulses. And as the scientist Dan Winter says, this explains the electrical potential called life. And it is here within this exchange where the vital strength and principle of life are produced, where the key to rational thinking is found, and it is like a real biological watch that regulates the level of the operations which develop within our brain and mind, and it controls all the parts of the body and feeling. From what we previously said about Dr. Gebert's discovery and making an analogy of the relationship between the subtle energy bodies and the corresponding attached physical body, bearing in mind how the transmission of subtle and dense energies is produced, we can deduce that the podium becomes the pineal gland, the exchange of the reception of subtle energies and vibrations. We already have the conditions to start creating the first thinking entity, which will be the main collector of the building's subtle energies. And in order to do this, we have to remember how the energies of the invisible subtle energy body are transmitted with its physical body. We know that these two bodies are interconnected, interpenetrated, and superimposed so that the energy path can be created. For the objectives of the flame of the earth, we need a very powerful thinking entity, and in order to achieve this, I ask myself the following questions. How can one of the most powerful thinking entities in the world be created? Through the interrelationship and the interpenetration between man and woman. And for what purpose? In order to create thinking beings. These questions and responses allow me to establish a correlation between the subtle and the material, to give life and shape to the main energy towers, the collectors of the building's subtle and dense energies, expressed in the following thinking pattern, a poem. In a world created for two to enjoy, man and woman, and where the air is a symbol of the spirit, I do not understand why the wind always takes with it what can be seen, and what remains is what we cannot see, the spirit, its culture, its values. The essence of the poem determines the main energy tower to us. In the front elevation of the main tower, which is 180 metres high, the figure of a woman predominates, with the torso of a man embracing her. This means that they are interrelated and superimposed. And if we look at the rear elevation, the torso of the man predominates, with his face semi-covered with an Arabic tunic, inhaling energies through the nose and to the ground. The main collector of energies allows all the subtle energies of the building to be guided, which will fuel the flame of fire formed by the woman's hair, and from there the subtle energies are spread everywhere within the limits of the universe. The two energy towers, which are 100 metres high, are the figure of a man and woman interpenetrated and overlapping, producers and transporters of dense solar energies. Through the transmitter trees which form the two pearls and the falcon, which surmount the energy sculpture, the two towers capture the superior subtle energies of their ancestors and send them towards the water of the pond named 1001 Nights. From there, the subtle energies of the Arabic world are absorbed and then distributed towards the main tower and the flame of fire, which stands on top of this main tower, and from there they are spread through space towards other places on Earth. We are therefore obtaining the different constructive details of the building. your crystalline waters be forgotten, if I was a bird, a river, a rock, or a branch in your Garden of Eden, in your rapids, water currents, I found the essence of the wind within its centre. I come to the plaza, mirror of the world, to the foot of the flame of the earth. I contemplate the length of the horizon. I visit the wind, the sea, the desert, and the water of the pond named 1001 Nights, which runs through the veins of life, in search for the beginning which enslaves the world. You and I came from unimaginable distances, travelling through millions of years of our races and generations. New moon, full moon, and old moon. You see everything, from the pure zenith, images of an old man, an adult, and a child, walking through one green garden to another, which is named the world, earth, love, destiny. Images of people cheering to the end of the year, images which freeze in time, images of travellers returning to our land with no rest, leaving subjects to their own destinies like a prisoner to his chain. Without water there is no life, and without energy there is no future. And the mixture of water and energy nourishes the harmony and well-being of life. When water and fire are harmonized, life, as well as other things, is created, and they become the earth's energy. This is a definition of this sculpture. The fountain of water and fire represents the symbol of the genealogical tree of life. The first 7 branches represent the 7 United Arab Emirates, and the 6 superior branches represent the 6 continents of the world, representing Dubai's and the UAE's desire to be a main trunk in the tree of life on earth. Each branch shows the name of the corresponding country and continent lit up. denomination and subtle energies came from the analogy between the falcon and the laser rays. The ancestors of Dubai and the UAE used the visual acuity of the falcon for its survival as a nation, and today it projects this willpower to live harmoniously with the world, making use of the laser in order to become connected via energy with the earth and its subtle energies. The love story about Layla and Majnun is the most popular within the Arabic world. Layla was a young lady whose beauty was as bright as the sun, and her radiance was so intense that not only did it light up her world, but the world of those that were close to her. She represents the legends of the man who she deeply loved, and this is what has inspired the most beautiful songs, sonnets and poems of the Arabic culture. You are like a rose, and I do not cut roses. I leave them in the garden, in their natural state, so that I can love them. The ensemble of the performance unit is the architectural habitat. This makes the three vertex of the triangle interact harmoniously, which form the subtle and dense energies of the past and of the present, users, building and socio-ecology. In this specific case, we will store the subtle energies in the most suitable way, within the pond's water. In order to do this, we will create some constructive elements located in strategic points within the performance unit. The pond named 1001 Nights, the underground green rivers in the service of the plaza, the three sculptures of Layla, the Eye of the Falcon and the Tree of Life, Fire and Laser, and within the podium, the children's library and conference rooms, in the entrance porch, the shooting stars and the two energy sculptures of 100 metres which accompany the main tower, the Flame of the Earth. All these subtle energies which emanate from the thinking patterns of the constructive elements mentioned is where the water is stored. Therefore, the entire main building is surrounded by a pond which collects the rainwater and the water from the waterfalls, which is then simultaneously and holistically interrelated with the source of the Green River, which represents the plaza formed by small channels of underground water, ramified in the shape of a tree, and where the irrigation water and subtle energies circulate, and with the three sculptures of Layla, the Tree of Life and the Eye of the Falcon, which support each one of these on a reservoir of underground water and strategically placed in the garden of the performance unit as a hydrographical regulation and as the subtle energies of the group of buildings. The 100-metre high energy sculptures capture dense, subtle, renewable and solar energies from above, the sky, and by being surmounted with a falcon and two pearls, they act like filters of the subtle energies of their ancestors, and they transmit them to the pond of 1001 Nights, where the water stores them. On the other hand, the transmitter and instrumental hands of subtle energies send their ancestors' energies to the conference room and the library, and as they are bidirectional elements, they simultaneously return the subtle energies of the present, produced by the lectures and children in the library, to the water in the pond, where they are stored together with the subtle energies which come from the plaza, the sculptures and the trees in the garden. We already have the subtle energies of the past and the present in the future. Now we need an intercommunicator which will link them together. For this, we will use the constructive detail of the shooting stars that acts as an aerial intercommunicator of subtle energies which will channel all the subtle energies and will send them to the main tower, the Flame of the Earth, in order to scatter them all over planet Earth to achieve the goals set out.